Hey, good afternoon. Hopefully you have some paper out right now. If not, pause the video. You need paper, probably graph paper if you have it, to take some notes. You're going to learn about slope, what it is, and how to find it. So here we go. We've been doing some graphing on, I think it was basketball, 10 minutes, how many times do you burn calories, and then on swimming. And then we had to graph it, and so we talked about, well, we haven't talked yet about the steepness of a line. But when you look at these two kids up here, we have good old Carmen and KJ. And what this graph is about, it looks like wages and time. Holy sloppy, sorry. So to me, I'm thinking wages and time, it sounds like how much they make at their job. So if you look at Carmen's line right now, it's a lot steeper than KJ's line. So what that tells me is probably Carmen makes more money than KJ. So when we talk about the steepness of the line, we're actually talking about slope. Hold on. Oh, let's try this one. Sorry, my slides are all messed up. Okay, so here's an example when we're measuring slope. Oftentimes you're going to hear something called rise and run. And when you think about slope, you always are going to be thinking about rise over run. That's probably the first thing you're going to want to write on your notes. When you think about slope, think of rise over run. If you remember rise over run, you're probably going to always get the numbers in the right spot. Rise over run. Get that stuck in your brain. All right, so if you're looking up here, there's what you need in your notes. If you are looking at a line, the biggest part that you want to look at is you want to find coordinates on it. For example, I circled two coordinates here. So what happens from this coordinate to this coordinate is we climb up 2 and then we go over 1. And so when we talk about the rise, that's what we go up. In this case, we go up 2. And then the run is where we move going left or right. A lot of people think rise, you have to get up in the morning before you can run. You can't just run and then jump out of bed. So I always want to do rise first and then the run. So if you look at another two coordinates on our line, here and here, again, I go up 2 and over 1. So I know my rise is going to be 2 and my run is going to be 1. So we can write it just like this, 2 over 1. And it's a positive 2 because I went up, and it's a positive 1 because I went to the right. So we would then say our slope of this line is just 2. 2 over 1 is the same as 2. So we're going to practice finding the slopes with these 4 lines. So you probably are going to be wanting to pause the video, kind of counting the lines and stuff on your computer, and then you're going to be writing these down so I know you have been working on this video. So let's start with the first one on the top left. The biggest thing you want to do is you want to find coordinates. Like this is not a good coordinate to find because it's right in the middle. We don't know exactly what that is. So looks like we can start there. And I know for sure that's a coordinate right here. I can't tell if this is or not, but it might be. I think it is. So what we do first is we rise. So in this case, we're going up. So how many do I rise? 1, 2, 3. And then I run. In this case, I'm going to go to the right, so I know it's positive, and I go 1. So my rise is 1. My run is, or sorry, my rise is 3. My run is 1. So again, you need to remember rise over run. Let's just check it with these other coordinates over here and see if that's the same. So if this is here, I go up 1, 2, 3, over 1. Yep, 3 over 1. So my slope in this case is going to be just 3. We'll throw that guy over there. Let's go over to this one. First thing you want to do is find 2 coordinates on your line. We can start with this and this. Now you got to be careful on this one. Again, you want to do rise over run. So I'm going to go up first. 1, 2, 3. But you need to be very careful because it's not actually 3. The difference is 30. So in this case, my run is 30, and my rise going over would be just 1. So in this case, my slope would be 30. 30 over 1. Right like that. All right, go down to the bottom left. Find 2 points on your graph. Here's one, and here's one. So first thing you do is you rise up 1 and over 2. So it'll be rise over run. In this case, my slope would be 1/2, and that's simplest form, so just 1/2. Next one over here. Let's see, find 2 points. And let's rise up first. Sometimes we call these slope triangles. There's a triangle, slope triangles. You have your rise right here. In that case, your rise would be 3. My run is 0 to 6. So again, be careful. Some people just say, oh, 1, 2, 3. But you got to look at your scale down here. It goes up by 2s. So I didn't go over 3. I actually went over 6. So rise is 3. Run is 6. My slope I can simplify to 1/2. So that's my final answer. My slope is 1/2. The bigger the slope, the more steep the line. All right, see what else we have here. Just did that. All right, so now what if you don't have a line, you only have 2 coordinates or 2 points? Can you figure out the slope with that? Definitely. First, if you want, you could graph it. So 1, 1 would be right here. If you're wondering where I got that 1, 1 right here. And there's another coordinate, 4, 2. 4, 2 is like that. So if you want, you could make a line. Oh, that's a bad line. So we're not going to make a line, actually. We're just going to see if I have to go up, that's my run, and over would be my rise. So I just went up 1, and I went over, check my scale down here, it goes by 1s, so I went over 3. So again, rise over run, my answer would just be 1/3. Now a cool way to do this with coordinates, if you don't ever have a graph, let's see if I'm going to get to that slide next, hold on. Here's an easy way to think about this. So really what rise is, and this is, you're going to want to take notes on this. Rise is just my change in the y. So in this case it went from a 1 to a 2. So my change in y. What run is, it's your change from your x, from 1 to 4. It's what happened going horizontally. So run is the change in x. Now what you could do if you don't have a line or a graph paper to count up and over, well, let's just do the change in y. So we want the second y minus the first y. Well, what in the world do I mean by that? Okay, well, go to your 2 coordinates up here. The second y in this case would be that. The first y would be the 1. So we'd go 2 minus 1 and we get 1. Now the change in x looks like this. It's the second x, subtract this first x. So in this case we have our second x is 4 and our first x right here is 1. 4 minus 1 is 3. So again, there's our 1/3. So our slope for this would be 1/3. Again, feel free to pause and rewind if I'm going too fast. Well, that's the one we just did. Ooh, let's try this one. What's different about this one is our slope, our line, actually looks like it's going down. And this is actually going to be a negative slope. So when you look at it, they found 2 points on our line right here and here. And we don't, when we usually say rise, we think we go up. But in this case, we actually have to go down. And that's where they get the -2 from. And then the rise would be 1. So our slope would be -2 over 1, or just -2. And you'll start to see soon, just by looking at a graph, if it's a negative slope or a positive slope. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow too. Here's another example of a negative slope. In this case, their coordinates right here, they had to go down 5. That's where they get the negative 5 from. So my slope would be negative 5. Oh boy, I got lots of slides at the same. All right, so here's an example of what a positive slope looks like on the left, and then what a negative slope looks like. And sometimes you can just visualize what the positive slope looks like. It's always going to be going kind of up in this direction. And the negative slopes are always going to be going down like that. Those would be negative slopes. So just two examples of what positive might look like on the left and negative on the right. Okay, so the last one we're going to do, and then you're going to try some practice problems. You're going to draw a line that has a slope of -2, 3, and it passes through point 1, 1. So the first thing that I would do is plot that point, 1, 1. So on your graph paper, you're going to want to pause this, make this graph, draw a point on 1, 1. Okay, hopefully you're back and your graph looks like this. Now, the next thing we have to do is draw that slope. And if you think you can do it by yourself, pause it and do it. If not, do it with me. So if our slope is -2, 3, we know this is our rise, which is basically the change in y. If you're wondering what this triangle means, that in math means the change. So we know this is going to be a -2, so that means it's going to go down because it's negative. So start at your coordinate, and you're going to go down 2. 1, 2. Then our run is positive, so I know I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to go to the right 3. So come back, you went down 2, and then you're going to go to the right 3. 1, 2, 3. And this is where your new coordinate's going to be. Now when you have two coordinates, you can easily make a line, you just connect the points. So that's what your graph should look like. Let's do a couple more examples before I leave you on your own. What happens if I have the following coordinates? Write those on your paper. Can you find the slope without actually graphing that? If you think you can, pause it and do it. If you can't, stay with me. Okay, so remember, rise over run, and rise is the change in y minus, the changes in y, and then over the changes in x. So let's find our y values in our coordinates up here. Here's y number 2. Here's y number 1. So we're going to do 6 minus 5. And then we're going to go to our x's. In our x's, here's our second x. So 4 minus the first x, which is 2, and I get 2. So my slope would be 1/2. Let's do one more. I only have a minute and then it's going to stop. So let's do 2, 3, and 1, 5. So again, the change in y versus the change in x. So here's my y. I'm going to do 5 minus 3. And my changes in x, 1 minus 2. And right now you should be saying, hey, that's a negative. So my slope is actually going to be a -2. If I went too fast, just feel free to stop, rewind it. But hopefully I'll see these notes on your paper. Now you're going to do the practice problems to the right and make sure you submit it to me. Have a good one.